Our world is facing unprecedented challenges. Climate change is altering natural balance. And our precious wildlife is struggling to survive. We are battling a new era of conflict and violence. There's the disruptive impact from digital technologies and shifting demographics with gaping inequalities. Now, a global epidemic is reshaping our world as we know it. We are at a crossroad at a time when our world seems so divided. Our world is struggling to breathe. For the United Nations 75th anniversary, we set out to ask the world, what are your hopes for your future?
If you could choose one thing to say to the UN, to world leaders about the future, what would that be?
In January 2020, the United Nations launched a global initiative to have the world's largest conversation on the future we want. Discussions have taken place in all settings, from classrooms to boardrooms, parliaments to village halls across the world, in order to reach as many people as possible. The United Nations listened, and the world spoke.
Justice, equality, and freedom for all.
People can really be in peace and with dignity, because our dignity was taken away from us because of our religion and because of who we are. And I hope that we are the last community who are suffering of those problems.
Health is often looked at as an expense. It is not. It is an investment.
We change by exchanging without losing ourselves.
We have run out of excuses and we are running out of time.
If we don't stop the destruction of our natural world, nothing else will matter.
More than ever before, we need solidarity, hope, and the political will to see this crisis through together.
From what we have heard, the world is not as divided as we thought. The global economy, healthcare, sanitation, education, and the hardest places hit are our top priorities from recovering from the pandemic. In response to COVID-19, greater international solidarity is urgently needed. The threat of climate change and destruction of our natural environment is the biggest fear for the future. We need increased efforts to reduce conflict and violence, and we aspire to further protect human rights. For optimism about our future, we need to look to our young people. The overwhelming majority of us believe global cooperation is more vital than ever.
Every time we fail to find solutions to global challenges, the most vulnerable people in our societies are hit the hardest.
Challenger now heading down range.
Throughout history, we have accomplished unimaginable things, propelling each generation further than the last. There is no limit to the amount of good we can achieve together to make this world, our world, a better place. The challenges before us are universal, and we know that these challenges demand global solutions. We have the blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. The Sustainable Development Goals. In 2045, the United Nations 100th year, let's see the change we have implemented today that will shine a light on our children's tomorrow.
Change is coming. The real power belongs to the people.
And I want to turn the question inside out as well. I will not ask, how dare you? Instead, I will ask, do you dare to?
This is the most urgent of times and the most urgent of messages. Now must be our moment for action.
Hello everyone, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome from wherever you are joining us with this webinar today. We're continuing with our series of webinar hosted by A Foundation. My name is Ahmed Kabishayan and I'm the academic advisor for this initiative. But today I will be your host, and also I will listen to from someone who I dearly love and consider as my mentor. I'm going to take a minute to before I actually formally introduce to you one of my mentors. So extracurricular activities is something students take focus during their undergraduate studies or their student life. For my case, I started becoming extracurricular activist once I graduated, and that too after 2.5 years later. And then I dared myself by attending a Model UN conference where I met this young gentleman who was still in his undergraduate. He was a student of economics and from North-South University. Enough clues there. But he was my chairperson of that committee where I learned the real definition of diplomacy, which I quote: diplomacy is when someone will go to hell and they will thank you for that. So I still exactly remember this quote learned from Mr. Golam Samin Rahman, who is our guest today. And to give you a little bit of introduction, Mr. Samin Rahman is an economics graduate making a career in sales and marketing. He's currently working as an assistant manager of sales and distribution at MGH Group. He's also a former president of the renowned Model UN Club at North-South University, and he also led successfully from the front as the Secretary General of NSUIMUN 2016. Enough feats there, but that's not all. So without further ado, let me please add to our webinar series our guest, Mr. Golam Samin Rahman, who will talk about the rules of procedure of United Nations Security Council. Sir, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, Alhamdulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm doing great as well. So first and foremost, we're live from A Foundation page. We're also live from my Facebook account and from my YouTube channel. So if you're watching, just like Galib posted, Samin Rahman Bhai, Ahmed Kabishayan Bhai, lots of love, lots of hearts there. So sir, I will give the floor to you to address how have you been and what have you been up to during the pandemic.
Okay, so this is the second phase of pandemic, right? After the first phase was almost over, like the lockdowns and all, for my job purpose, I shifted to Sylhet. So after 10 months of my stint over there, I came back to Dhaka and I started working at Dhaka again. So yes, it's a bit better now and my days are passing pretty well. And I am way far away from Model UN right now. So when I was approached for this, and the first thing that came to my mind is I am way out. Like maybe I don't remember the last time I attended an UN, and like maybe this would be justified that if I actually take a session on United Nations Security Council right now, because nowadays we have a lot of expertise who are doing and who are continuing doing UN. But then again, the organizers did convince me, saying that I won't be pressurized much. So yeah, it's good
Absolutely.
to be back.
Yeah, I cannot agree with you more that I will try to ensure that we don't pressure you more than what we promise. So yes, Model UN is it has been a part and parcel of our lives during a phase. We all have had our phase. So before we go to our formal session and start with the question, I request our viewers to post questions so that if you have any questions Please post it on the chat. If you have any comments for our guest, Mr. Samin Rahman, to know, please do so. So, as you've repeatedly mentioned that your way of practice, but I do believe something are always there. You don't need to remember all the things. Some things are stuck in your heart. So I believe model UN is one of those things. Otherwise, your passion and dedication wouldn't be the same. So, sir, could you first tell us something about your role right now? You mentioned that you've been in outside Dhaka and you now back. Could you give us some idea of your day-to-day activities so that our enthusiasts from the model event, they can be inspired about your career?
Passion, I would agree about the passion word, but won't agree about the dedication word, because if I want to, then again, I can't be part of a lot of things that I want to right now, because I am getting a reality check right now. And like, unlike money, you are one of the few people, the only people I know that who started even that late and who continued it. But then again, money, everyone's job or the way of earning is not the same, right? So they get committed in a different way. And like, after I graduated in economics, so I was pretty sure that I would pursue a career in economics. So after that, like, so after some research, I understood that marketing is the only place where you don't need like a hardcore marketing degree to pursue your career. So that after that, I joined Procter and Gamble, like MGH Group, and firstly I used to look at the portfolio Procter and Gamble, and after that I was promoted and sent to Sylhet to look after 3 more portfolios, and I'm looking after 3 portfolios right now here in Dhaka as well. And like, it's been 2.5 years of my career working over here, and like, I am pretty happy with my job, the salary and check that I'm getting. Work-life balance, yes, pretty much. So yes, I would say I'm leading a very comfortable life, and yes, anyone did help me. How? Maybe not like in my CV I wrote I did a lot of MUNs, I did that, but it helped me to boost myself, to boost my confidence. Then it helped me to grow as a person as well. So I was always an extrovert, but it helped me to know my limitation as well. So yes, it helped me a lot. Even nowadays, the best thing that anyone taught me is thinking 360. Like, whenever a situation comes to me, I don't think for one possible solution or one possible way forward or one possible thing or the cause or show. I actually try to find out 3, 4, 5 possible ways this of the cause or the solution. So this is something that really helped me, and this is still helping me in my career. So maybe I did not get anything hardcore from MUN, but the soft skill that I learned or that I acquired from MUN is still helping me, not only in my professional life, at some point in my personal life as well. So basically, my take on MUN and the current condition of MUN is like, everywhere you go, either it's a relationship or a job or something you're learning or something you're pursuing, there are always 2 sides, a good side and a bad side, and it's always up to you which side you want to take. Certainly.
Absolutely. I think you mentioned it quite eloquently, and I'm sure our audience can take note of the things that you're mentioning and emphasizing on. And I do remember us having conversation very informally and talking about life, talking about MUN and a lot of different things. But today we're going to try to inspire some of the newcomers out there. We will try to give them a message that being in advanced committees is not something to be frightening about. But yes, being in your committee is a different story. I might not have to say that. So jokes aside, let's start with the first question. So the first question is actually the comparison between Security Council and other ones. How do you see when you're simulating 2 committees, just being a conventional one, and in other side you have Security Council? How do they differ according to your opinion?
So basically, if I compare it with university, the normal committees are your sophomore year or fresher year, and the United Nations Security Council is either your final year or your internship or your research. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's very interesting coming from you. And a lot of our audience may not have been in
Yes.
university yet. Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, like in other words, I started doing United Nations Security Council after I attended 30 MUNs in 26 or 27 different committees. Before
Wow.
that, I did not start doing MUN. I did start doing United Nations Security Council because since I started doing MUN, I always took United Nations Security Council as a supremacy. Like that's the highest point of an MUN. So that is how I grew, and that is what my take on United Nations Security Council is.
And this is quite interesting, I repeat again, because a lot of the different times we think that MUN is an academic simulation. So everything needs to be according to the book. There are rules, there are strategies, but actually it's not. I think
It's
you would agree.
definitely not. It's definitely not. It's at the end of the day, it's something that we do off the book, off the record, for some different pursuit. Otherwise, the education we are paying for the education, that's enough, right?
Exactly. So a lot of the times we also think that knowing about an agenda, doing enough research can be important, but we forget that it's also about the people who are taking part, which is why this webinar exists, because we're going to talk about your life as well. We're going to talk about your experience. So that brings my second question of the session. So do you think ROPs are important? And if so, how important is ROP in the simulation of the committee?
So if I talk about United Nations Security Council, so the expectation from the delegates of United Nations Security Council is way higher than any other committee. So, and ROP should be the very first thing. And me as a chair or me as a president, I count on ROP a lot. I do see that if someone is maintaining the ROPs and all the other attributes very finely on them. At times, I have given awards to delegates who was maybe above average. There were better contenders than them, but they were very on point with their ROPs. And my take on ROP is very important, and you should definitely take it very seriously.
Great. I just lost power, but we'll still continue with the session. As you mentioned that ROP is something very serious for you to simulate a committee, and I have to admit that I learned ROP. It is kind of awkward, yeah. Let me get me. It's quite dark here, but I just lost power.
We can see you. I can see you. That people can see you as well.
Yeah, yeah. This is part of and parcel of being in the country that we are amidst the pandemic, but that's all good. We're still in a blessing. So I have to admit or confess the fact that you taught me ROP, the seed of ROP, how I should approach ROP, how I'm supposed to take advantage of certain rules. All of this stuff came from you. So today is pretty much a dream come true for me to speak to my mentor. So let's go to the important question and pretty much the gist of today's webinars. And I will ask the question as I have this one written. This is a very formal question. We know that it is not impossible to teach ROP of UNSC in such a short amount of time. But if you had to share an overview, how would you approach that to our audience?
So as it is United Nations Security Council, so I know 3 ROPs. So, but I always tend to follow USA, and I have a very good reason behind that. The reason why I always follow USA is this is the most popular ROP in the world as well as in Bangladesh as well. So if I follow that, I actually teach people for the upcoming MUs as well. So this is one of the reasons I usually keep on following USA, and if I need to break it, so the USA is compiled of two sessions, formal session and informal session. And the informal session is break into two parts. That's moderated caucus and unmoderated caucus. And that's all about it. It's just like the conventional committees as well. Like you can raise motion in between two speakers, you can vote, you can have unmoderated caucus, you can make allies, you can make paperwork like, but there are certain differences and that comes on voting, and there are some interesting and extra session for United Nations Security Council. Like for a United Nations Security Council session, in between two speakers, you can raise a motion for a call for a P5 meeting, which can you guys hear me? Charlie, am I audible?
Yes, you're still audible.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay. So call for a P5 meeting is something very different, and I know a lot of chair who doesn't follow it, but it's in the RoP that any P5 member, like the P5 members are Russia, China, USA, UK, and France. Any P5 member can call for a P5 meeting. That means a meeting for them, and they can discuss on certain things where the chairs or any other delegate won't be present. It can be called at any time of the session in between two speaker. A motion needs to be raised, and there is no point of voting on it. It's just passed by the chair. This is one thing that is different. Another thing that is different is the voting. The voting is different in such that in United Nations Security Council, the word supremacy comes up because five countries, the P5, have an extra power. They can veto. Veto means they can decline anything, and one no from any P5 is a decline on any substantial matter. So the model UN or the United Nations is broken into two matters: substantial matter and the procedural matter. So the procedural matters are the matters that are in touch with the proceedings of the committee, and the substantial matters are the matters that are addresses to the agenda that we are being discussing.
Okay, so I think that should give our audience a good idea on how technically the simulation of Security Council can differ from the conventional committees. So I urge our viewers to post questions if they have any. Otherwise, I'll just yes.
Adding up a more bit is like the paperwork of United Nations Security Council. So usually on conventional committees, we just have a draft resolution which is turned into a resolution. But in cases of the United Nations Security Council, the president of the council, that means the chair or the president of the council, can raise a presidential statement where he states about the current ongoing and the decisions taken by the committee or the council. Then there are directives, which are direct action order taken by the council as well. So it's pretty much a bit different, and we can light it up more. Usually when I used to chair the United Nations Security Council, every time I used to experiment a lot of things, but keeping the RoP on point. I never used to bend the RoP, but I used to introduce crisis, and I used to change the RoP a bit or change the committee proceeding a bit. We can have closed door sessions in United Nations Security Council as well, which is not or which cannot be taken part in any other committee. The closed door sessions involved only the council members to be present in the room, and all the discussions won't be recorded. It's just discussions, and nothing would be recorded over there. And the voting, so the main differences, if I can jot down the main differences between the conventional committee and the United Nations Security Council is, in the United Nations Security Council, the voting is different. In the United Nations Security Council, there can be private meetings, and in the United Nations Security Council, there are rules for different paperwork which are not found in conventional committee. And in the United Nations Security Council, the vocal, the attribute, and the diplomacies are very much low. Like we cannot overlook any attitude or any behavior or any wordings of any delegate. Like usually in normal communities, at times if a word is taken or spoken by a certain delegate, at times as chairs we overlook it, but during the sessions of United Nations Security Council or the simulation of United Nations Security Council, we never overlook it. We take everything into consideration, even the movement of the necks are taken into consideration as well. If you are a strict chair, you do take things like this into consideration. That's pretty much the differences. So, as you have already mentioned, it is not possible to teach the ROP of United Nations Security Council in such light sessions because there are small things which cannot be like. Usually, when I start a committee in United Nations Security Council, I give them a brief or I teach them ROP very nicely. Like I take session for at least an hour or 40 minutes or more than an hour. But still there are places which usually I teach them or I teach them during the session when the formal session starts, and after that we usually teach it because there are certain things which which it's very important to be taught practically. And some part of United Nations Security Council, the ROP is like that.
Yeah, some things you need to have hands-on approach. So when you do it, you learn it more and you learn it better. I am absolutely an example because I have been with you and I've seen how you train delegates about ROP and how they should do it, and you give them enough time so that they
we
go
chaired,
through the things.
We chaired 2 MUNs or 1 MUN? We chaired 1 MUN,
I think
right?
1 MUN, yes.
1
together.
MUN, we chaired together.
Yes.
And that was also an experiment as well, right?
Exactly.
That was an experimental
WTO.
committee as well, yeah. WTO.
Yep. One of the advanced committees, right? And I am going to read some of the comments that we're getting. Unfortunately, people who are commenting on my Facebook account, the comments are not appearing on stream yet due to permission reasons. Abdullah Al-Zaim says, oh, got it. Maybe he had a confusion. He learned the explanation that you gave.
Okay.
Safa Abbas Bahar Chaudhary, it's very good to see Samin Bhai with rules of procedure. Muhammad Fahim says Assalamu alaikum, wa alaikum assalam, and he also says Samin Bhai with a lot of hearts. So we're getting comments. Unfortunately, I cannot show it on the screen because some of the comments are coming from different sources. Anyway, so let's move on to the fourth question. It's about your preference and when you're chairing different committees. And for myself, I have noticed in at least 5 MUNs as a chair for different committees, as a EV for other committees where you were a chair. And I've noticed that there is a certain bias from you towards Security Council. So the question that I have for you is, would you naturally prefer chairing United Nations Security Council over other committees, and why?
Achha, so maybe the bias came from the organizers. So you need to quote that. And like I did 1 or 2 United Nations Security Council before Bagman 7. Okay.
Yep.
2 or 3, 1, 2 or 3. After that, in Bagman 17, I did literally ask Akif. Like Akif is a very good close friend of mine. The 17th section. Those gave me United Nations Security Council. I have some different plans. So there was no further question. There were some people, there were some foreign chairs as well who asked for United Nations Security Council, but Akif gave it to me. And like the entire nation was so happy with that committee or so excited about that committee that after that, in most of the areas, like I stopped applying for MUN like long back. Bagman 17, Bagman 20 and AUW 18 were the only MUN that I applied, apart from few foreign MUNs. So fortunately, and another reason why I asked Akif for United Nations Security Council in Bagman 17 was 2 weeks later I was to join one of the oldest MUN in India as a Vice President of United Nations Security Council. That was NUJS, I guess. That is one of the oldest MUN in India, and that too with Neil. Neil is a veteran over there. So I thought that would be a practice for me as well. So that MUN, in that MUN, and people come up with a lot of rumors like Samin Rahman is this, Samin Rahman is that, Samin Rahman will break the committee. So I know two delegates who did two practice MUN before attending United Nations 17, United Nations Security Council at Baghdad 17. So, and that committee was like, to be honest, till then, that is one of my favorite committees that I have chaired, apart from few others. That is one of my favorite committees. I love that committee, and I did a lot of experiment in that MUN. So yeah, certainly. So after that, the invitations that I used to get is for United Nations Security Council. So that's how, and after a certain time, what happened is I got very comfortable with United Nations Security Council, and one of the things that I used to do always, I used to like revise, I used to learn, I used to research before attending any event, at least for 5 to 7 days. So after in 2018, so my chances of revising got a bit low because of my final year pressure as well as internship around. After that, getting United Nations Security Council was also comfortable for me as well. So সব মিলে ব্যাটে বলে মিলে গেছেন দেখে অনেক ইউনাইটেড নেশন সিকিউরিটি কাউন্সিল পরে করা হবে এটাই not being biased and all. I love attending other committees as well. Like I attended different committees in Durban, AUW, and before that I only attended different committees. Like I attended an MUN in Malaysia where they had no conventional UN committees. So the committee that I chaired was SDG Goal 4, which was quality education, and I had a committee of 108 delegates, out of which 98 delegates were newcomers. I had fun doing that MUN. That still is one of the most diverse MUN that I have attended, with no like extra social and anything. It was actually a learning session for everyone, the dais, the organizers, the delegates. After that, I chaired Golam in Kitman with a head count of 200 something delegates and at least 150 or 160 countries. Yes, but UNSC was always a comfort zone because it's easier to judge 15, 16 people and give them a better mentorship than having a very big committee. That's what I feel. But at times, teaching a lot of people also gives you happiness. But that United Nations Security Council or presiding or chairing United Nations Security Council got to my comfort zone, for which both the organizers and me myself would prefer doing United Nations Security Council right now over any other.
I think there are a lot of stories that are unheard and there are a lot of things that happen, but and it's easy to just make an understatement. Plus, rumors are always going to be there, and rumors are only rumors. But thank you so much for the first time, perhaps in a formal setting, you gave us an explanation, and I think that is justified. Plus, a lot of the things that you mentioned,
like to be honest, like after being the president of North South University, or after doing like I became a MUNner by being a delegate. I won an award. Then I started as a director, then a vice chair, and I was a vice chair for a very long time. Like I saw people who was delegate, who became director, vice chair, and chair. Still, then I was a vice chair. Okay, so there was no question about my resume. So I never used to go and pursue to people that please let me attend this MUN or all. I used to get invitation, or if I feel like doing that MUN, I would apply. And this confidence boosted me after I attended few international MUNs as well. Like if I can get a chance in international MUN, attending interviews and all, and they have very strict procedures of taking international chairs. So it's useless of pursuing people for being a chair, that too doing it free and all. So I never used to go for pursual like please let me do this MUN and all. I used to get invitation, or if I feel like that I would, like Bagman 2020 was something I was very anticipated for, and I applied for that MUN. And I would definitely confess it in front of everyone. Like yes, like AUW 18, I wanted to attend AUW 18. So I applied for it. And there is no shame in saying that, yes, I attended that, I wanted to attend this event and I applied for it. I know a lot of people who are like, I don't go without invites and all. But that means you're not passionate about doing anything, nothing else.
True that. Being passionate is only a few can do so. And Saeed Akib Hossein, the name that you mentioned, he's no less than being enough passionate. He's commented right now, I'm glad to see both of you in the same frame. And oh, the moment I heard Bagman 17, I couldn't hold myself to recall the conference. Thanks, Samin.
That was one of a kind. That was one of a kind. To be honest, Bagman
Yes.
17 was one of a kind.
Mehdi Abir says, hello Samin bhai, assalamu alaikum. Muhammad
Walaikum.
Fahim says, at times we get to hear that you are not a real monarch if you have never been a delegate of UNSC. What's your opinion about this statement? Interesting.
Not really. Not really. I am an econ grad. I am pursuing a career in sales and marketing. Not really. And like it, and a good teacher is not always a good student.
Very, very important point you make. Yes.
So I know a lot of good manners who were very good as delegates, but they are not up to the mark as chair. And I know a lot of chairs who never attended MUN seriously as delegate, but they are very good chairs. So
exactly,
being a delegate and being a chair are two different roles. Like it's not always true that a good delegate could be a very good chair or a good chair was a very good delegate. But you need to have certain ideas which you can get through your expertise or the field you are expert at. And I completely disagree with this statement. And to be honest, I never attended any MUN as a delegate in United Nations Security Council.
I thought that was supposed to be a secret.
No, that was never supposed to be a secret. I have an open book. There is nothing to be secret. So
absolutely,
I never attended any committee as a United Nations Security Council. But as far as I have heard from people that I share United Nations Security Council pretty well. So I can be a very good example for this. Not bragging about myself or not being a narcissist, but yes, I can be a good example of why I disagree with this statement.
Right. We have a lot of people tuning in. People who are reacting to our video are. So I'll get some of the names. Astrid, all the way from Indonesia. Rifa Tamanna.
Astrid was with us, right?
Yes, she was there with. Yes. Aditya Chaudhuri, Nusrat Tabassum Novera, Iradat Hussain. These are some of the few names that I can see right now. We also have Bushra Altaf Chaudhuri, Newaz Kader Khan. A lot of people tuning in. Yasin Nahin. I think we're getting a lot of viewers. So let me ask you the next question. We're talking about your experience and you're sharing some of your experiences as a delegate, as a chair. Would you please share your most memorable experience simulating the Security Council?
So there are a few. So my last MUN was Bagman 2020. So I simulated Bagman 2020 on real-time crisis. Like the things that were discussed in the United Nations Security Council at that time was also discussed at Bagman. So this is something very memorable. Bagman 17 was one of the few. At that time, the only MUN which had a lot of, like, the highest amount of committee sessions. Like we had committees till morning. We started committee session late at night. We had surprise committee sessions. These are few memorable things. As well as, and I did 2 or 3 MUNs, United Nations Security Council, on the Palestinian conflict, Israel-Palestine conflict. So when I got into my comfort zone, I started like doing a lot of things about that committee. So yes, like every MUN to me is very memorable because every time I attend the MUN, always like at least 5 to 6 days before that MUN starts, the only thing that like hits my mind is what different can I bring for the committee? What new can I bring for the committee? And I was always in that pursuit and I used to do that. So every MUN to me was very memorable. But both the Bagmans, like Bagman 17 is the most memorable United Nations Security Council till date. Bagman 2020 as well. I did one in Chittagong. Maybe presidency, that committee was very good. The
I also
NUJS
remember.
as well.
Yeah, I also remember GHMUN, where it was Israel-Palestinian conflict with double
Yeah.
delegation. That committee was very active.
That committee was very active, and that committee, like, to be honest, I am a bit old school, so that committee was something very new to me as well. Like I used to attend little or no school MU, so that committee was a surprise to me.
Yeah,
surprise to me as well. Sorry, I got a very bad cold.
I hope you recover soon. The weather isn't helping. I also had cold for the past few days. Today I'm feeling a bit better. So we have a question from Faisal Ahmed. He says, Assalamu alaikum Samin bhai. And his question is, rules of procedure varies from chair to chair for the same committee. Isn't it a challenge for beginners to get into it? Meaning adopting
Yes.
to different chair styles?
Yes. So the only reason I follow UNE USA to book is so that, like, the things that I follow is always like the written one in the UNE USA. The only reason behind that is that so that no delegate learns anything wrong. But then again, there is a point in RoP that a chair can make or change the RoP. And usually the problem that arises is the chair, the sole purpose of that point or that clause is changing the RoP is to keep the flow of the debate in a better way. But the problem that arises in Bangladesh is chair made the RoP for their comfortable zone, not for a better committee session. Like in most of the cases that I felt as a delegate, but maybe, or I saw a few years doing that, and they had no good logical reason behind doing anything wrong. But if you can change the RoP and you have proper logic behind it, you can do it. But then again, in beginner committees, I would always prefer doing it like the book has recommended, and I usually do that. And me as an organizer, in NSUIMUN 17 as a secretary, I have provided the RoP to the chairs, and I have asked them for the beginner committee to follow that, nothing else. So the organizers play a good role as well. If the organizer asks the chair to do that, the chair is mostly bound of doing it, because no one bigger than the organizer. So
Absolutely.
This is a very good point, and I would request all the organizers to set a good RoP and like select one RoP and use the default rules of procedure and ask the chair to follow that and only that for beginner committee at least.
Absolutely. There should be a balance
Yes, can
and a
you
good
move on to the
understanding.
question?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. There was a little bit of lag. We can move to the next question. Yes, of course. I agree with you, and there should be a good understanding and a balance working hand by hand for a great experience for the delegates. Nazmuz Sakib Nihal comments, Samin bhai with lots of love reacts, and then Safayat Azim just commented, #SDG, #football. So we only have a few more questions before we start our rapid fire round. Second last question.
Yes.
Yeah. Would you want to make a comment about Safayat's comment?
Okay. Yes. No.
All right.
These are internal.
All right, great. Perfect. So the next question is, what would be your advice to anyone who is planning to attend the Security Council as a delegate for the first time?
My advice would be, first of all, you go through, like, there is this website called securitycouncilreports.org. You search the agenda, you'll get a lot of reports, especially the special reports of the special rapporteur's report. You go through it, you'll understand what are the differences between doing a normal committee and the United Nations Security Council, because these are so well written and you will get a lot of things. Like, I remember this thing in NUS, like one of the delegates, the Israel, was speaking, like every speech was never less than 3 minutes, 4 minutes. So, but like I talked to my rapporteur, like I have heard this somewhere. Like these are very much known to me. Even the chair was telling that I think I heard this before. Like maybe I can't recall. Maybe he was my delegate before. Then the director found out that he's just reading the special rapporteur's report for every speech. It is that precise, and like before knowing that, we were giving him good marks because it was so on point. Then you should understand, like you can like take note from YouTube as well. There are very good pages where they say, like, they teach you how the United Nations Security Council works. And you get a gist, and it is very important to research about every country, like at least the 15 member stands on that agenda. This is very important for Security Council because there are very limited number of members for this committee, and it is very important to know that what are the stances of each country, because it is like as the president of that council or as the chair of that council, like I can see 15 people with my normal eyes without any spectacles or without any binoculars. So if anything wrong happens, it is very much visible and very much evident. So it's very important to know your stance and the other country's stance. It is very important to be well researched and to know about the proceeding of Security Council. What are the portfolio powers of Security Council is very important. What the Security Council can do, because you cannot come up with some small things on a big committee, and that's what the United Nations Security Council is, a small committee with big power. So you need to understand that portfolio of Security Council and you need to act in that according. So I would definitely suggest to at least have a research for at least 2 hours for 4 days or 5 days before the conference. It's pretty much important.
All right, thank you. Before I go to my last question, we have a viewer question. Somit Dash asks, Sir, what is your best memory of being the president of NSUIMUN?
Best memory? It was a very memorable year, to be honest. And the best memory would be NSU winning best delegation or the highest number of awards in every MUN we attended. Like, name any MUN where we attended with at least 8 to 10 delegates, we were never second. We were never second. We were always the highest award receivers. And that, like, that is my biggest achievement, being the president of the United NSU Model US Club.
Yes, of course. I must say that many of the MUN conference where I have traveled along with your delegation, due to the fact that you allowed me to travel with your delegation, I've noticed their dedication and how you train them. So absolutely on point about that. And I think your army, as Safayat Azim says, Samin Rahman's army, he says that he just commented, they are also very proud about it as well. So
but I am literally if to be honest, like since I started doing this job, I always had a team under me. Like it's 15 to 20 people under me working under me. Their achievements, like I feel very proud of their achievements as well. But it is never comparatively my clubs, like my army's achievement are always like at top. Always, but they never like. If I tell them that you attend this MUN and you are gonna win an award, and I will make sure you win it. Out of fear, they used to if they have a plan of researching for 2 hours, they used to research for 4 hours because they need to make me happy. And that was something like, you cannot buy like there is this word everyone says you cannot buy everything with money, and that is something.
True. Yep. So let me ask you the last question that I have in this webinar, after which we'll take a very short break and then come back with a rapid fire question round. We're going to finish in the next 10 minutes, hopefully. So as an EB member, as a chair, as the president of Security Council, how do you evaluate your delegates?
Okay. So my evaluation is usually quantitative, but I have some qualitative approach as well. So like there are times when a lot of like United Nations Security Council delegates are pretty much mature and they attended a lot of events. So it is very obvious that they will question after receiving an award, if not receiving an award. So that's why I follow a quantitative approach where I have the verbatim. I can say how many times he spoke, how many cheats he has passed. I mark each and every cheat which is gone through the dais. I mark each and every paperwork. Maybe it's just a small directive. I mark it as well. I mark each and every speech, and it's in two parts: how he or she present that speech and the content of that speech. I mark on their diplomacy. I mark on their how good they are in building allies. I mark on how good they are with their cheat cheat diplomacy. There is this word called cheat diplomacy. How good they are with their cheat diplomacy. Then ABP, attire, behavior, punctuality. This is very important to me. Like if someone is late in every session, I would think twice before giving him good marks in a lot of things.
All right. Thank you so much. We will take a very short break. Just to remind everyone, the theme of this webinar series is UN 75, and we want everyone to take part in the conversation. So we'll have a very short video, after which we will come back with a rapid fire question round with our guest, Mr. Golam Samin Rahman. So please stay with us. Thank you so much, everyone, for that attention. So reminding everyone to let your voice be heard. Join the conversation at UN 75. So Alif just commented, Muksetul Islam Alif, so happy to see you after so long, Samin Rahman Bhaiya. I don't see any other comments. Unfortunately, the comment is not appearing on the stream. But anyways, we will start the rapid fire round now. We have about 5 minutes remaining in our time. So I'm going to give you some options, yes, no. Sometimes there will be A, B options. You just need to pick one, and we'll try to do this as quickly as possible. So the first one, as a delegate, which one do you prefer most? A fiery speech or great points? You can only choose one.
Great points.
Well dressed up or an articulated talker? In between, middle.
But it needs to be a balance. Like if you are attending anywhere, like yes, it needs to be balanced. But I've seen this in India, like they really don't care about the dress. They come in chappals,
exactly,
and kurtas, and they get awards. But to me, like if we see the real simulation or real UN, so you are all very well dressed, and usually like it attracts someone. Like if you are very well dressed and if you are very like, if you are very smart and if you present yourself very smartly, it actually creates a bit of attractiveness for the viewer as well. So yes, it needs to be a balance.
Absolutely. Next one, as a delegate, do you prefer a good agenda or a good allocation of country?
As a delegate, a good allocation of country.
All right. In Security Council, do you want a permanent membership or a P5?
A P5 or non-permanent?
Yep.
P5.
P5. Okay. Now let's talk about as a chair. As a chairperson, do you want to see the most number of delegates present or most people speaking?
Most people speaking.
Okay. Do you want to see relevant discussion or everyone speaking?
Like for the past few years, I did United Nations Security Council, so yeah, relevant discussion.
Right. Yeah.
But if it's a beginner committee, everyone speaking would be fine.
All right. Let's go to your experience as a MUNner. So your favorite chair or few names who are very good chairs where you were delegates.
Saad Bhai, Anab, Sherin Apu. Yes.
Okay. Next, the good delegates name. I think there was a long post you posted in 2019, if I'm not correct, in March when there was an incident. You mentioned a few people who were very good delegates, but still, some name of some good delegates that you had fun chairing.
Shubham Borua, Marjuk Ryan, Sakib Khondokar, Joy, Sapphire. I can't recall a lot of names. Like I'm way too much away from it. Then
maybe a lot of names coming from Bagman 17th Security Council that you were saying.
Yeah, Shubham was there, but I can't recall a lot of people right now. Then okay, I named 5.
Yeah.
Maybe it's fine.
All right. Some of the EB that you've chaired together, few names, maybe who's worked under you or
Alif, Shubham, you, then Astrid as well. Astrid, I really liked how she worked. Then Neil would be one. Then there is this guy, Rafsan, from DU. Then there was this another guy who left doing against Conmoy. Conmoy, he's in Australia right now.
Yes,
he's good
yes. G2, I think his nickname
G2.
Yes.
G2.
Yeah, very great, articulated. Yep. So thank you. We got a lot of names. Let's move on to some of the MUN conferences that you've attended. You mentioned about global goals being one of the very extravagant ones. Any other names would you mention, like your best international MUN?
Kit MUN.
Yeah. You attended
I attended Kit as a delegate as well as an EP as well. It's a different kind of experience. Not too much social, but yes, good content.
Absolutely. That's totally in a different level. You've attended 4 different NSU MUN conferences. Which one was most memorable?
Like I was the section of 17. So 17, but NSUIMUN 16 plays a vital role in the changes of this club or the changes that is brought to the Indian fraternity right now. So NSUIMUN 16 was actually a revolution. So I cannot compare it. I was the section of 17 to yes, and in 17 I introduced a lot of new things. But 16 was a game changer in the MUN that is happening in Bangladesh. So yes, both, like I cannot play. I played a vital role in both the MUNs. 16 and 17, and both of them are equally close to my heart. So yes.
All right. My last question is about your mentors. Could you tell us some of the name of mentors from your club and also outside of your club, please?
Sherin Apu, and my mentor would be, like, if I say one name, that would be Anaf Tamit.
Yep.
Sherin Apu, Saad Bhai. Yes, this.
No, I have to agree with the name Anaf Tamit because a lot of things echo from there, and
Yes.
A lot of
He
different
was never
things.
my chair. He was never my chair. We never shared a committee together. But then again, like, I learned everything from him.
Exactly. So I think that's all the time we have. As promised, we will not keep you hostage after 11 p.m. I know there are other commitments, and I just recently got married 8 months ago, so I totally give you the benefit of doubt. No question about that. So thank you so much for agreeing to spend 1 hour from your life with myself, with the audience that we have talking about UNSC, hosted by A Foundation, definitely. Any thoughts you have for the future of the national circuit? Are you worried about Bangladeshi MUL culture? By any means, this is not a question. It's just an open comment for you.
Yes, I am very much worried, but I won't explain why I'm worried because everyone knows why. Like, the passionate MUNners are worried about this. So yes, I am worried, but to be honest, I don't care much as well because I am way out of it. But I am certainly very much worried as well.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. Any comments, any words for your followers, your viewers, your delegates, your army,
Thank you so
anything
much.
you want to say?
Thank you so much, like, Join and A Foundation, for bringing me back after like a year or more. Like, I am like, I left doing MUN back in, like, last MUN attempt was January 2020. After that, I did 2 sessions online. One was the one hosted by Ali, and another one was NSU Talk. And after that, it's been more than a year. Like, I heard this word MUN or something related to MUN. Thank you. Like, it's very much nostalgic as well. I can remember a lot of things. And to the people, like, who follows me or who thinks that I have done something or I've contributed something to the life, I wish you everyone all the very best. If you love doing anything, do it passionately, not for the certificates or not for being a chair or a vice chair. Do it passionately. Everything will come to you on its own pace. Because artificially, if you like, there are few people, I know a lot of people who drag themselves artificially. Like, you know what I mean, right? So they did not last long. Maybe 1 year, 2 year, 2.5 years. I started doing MUN in 2014, and if I still wish, I can still continue doing. Well, I can, if I say that I want to do MUN, I can at least get 1 MUN a month. But I did not feel like, but it lasted long because I was never in a rush.
Yep.
I became a full-fledged chairperson in any university level MUN in 2017, 14, 15, 16, 3 years. And I am never sad about that. Right? A lot of my friends, a lot of people who started before me, who started with me or after me, became chair before that. So it's pretty much fine. Yes, so don't rush. If you are passionate about doing MUNs, do it passionately. The fruits will come on its own pace.
Right. Being passionate is something that we can all learn from each other. Solidarity, helping each other, kindness, and everything. During the pandemic, we wish everyone safe life, healthy lifestyle. If anyone's not feeling well, quick recovery. And thank you to everyone who spent their time attending today's webinar. We will continue with this. And we will have more names coming up, so please wait for the surprise. And Golam Samin Rahman, thank you so much for being my mentor and training me with the RoP and diplomacy. So that would be my closing.
You had your passion, that's why you came this far. Like, there are a lot of people who attended my MUN as the first time or second time, learned a lot. Came to me that yes, I learned a lot. But after that, I never saw them attending any more events, or I never saw them continue MN. But you are one of them who continue doing MN and who do it very passionately. Like I can't even manage so much time from my work life to attend events or do it like you. So I am very proud of this, and like I wish I had a life like you, like who can balance it so nicely. I can't. I literally can't balance my life. So yeah. But then again, we are happy on our own field, and that is what it matters.
Absolutely.
And I am very happy to attend this session after a very long time and share my thoughts and point of view. Yes, brings back a lot of memories. Thank you, everyone.
Yes.
Thank you, Choyan and A Foundation, for this. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, sir. There's a lot of comments waiting for you. So whenever you're available later on, go through the comments. I'll share a link with you later on. I think we're going through the comments. There are some other comments. So thank you so much again. We're going to wrap up right now. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.